Okay, so welcome to today's Satsang. I'm feeling so grateful and so honored to be able to facilitate this. And I want to thank you as well for giving me the opportunity to facilitate this as well. So thanks for showing up. And so for today's Satsang, I'll be sharing about, unleashing our true self. And just the other day when I was meditating, actually, I received some really deep insights which I would like to share with you. If we're connected on social media, you might have seen the video that I shared earlier. So it's great you get to hear it again. And we're just going to look at different tools to explore in ways where we can unleash our true self. At the moment, the world, it's changing, it's shifting. And, we may not be able to feel it right now, but things are happening for the better. The world right now needs leaders. We need new leaders and new voices. And we can all be leaders, right? We can all be leaders of our own lives. And we need to be able to lead ourselves first before we can lead others, before we can lead our children. And right now with the current coronavirus and the lockdown that's taking place, it really is a perfect opportunity to really work on ourselves and to really delve deep and connect with our true self. So, you can become that leader by simply connecting with yourself, by just being you. Okay, those three words are vital. Just be you. And just being you simply means to be your authentic self, right? Being your true self. And your true self is your best self. And our true self is like a diamond. Now, this diamond, it's, like with all diamonds, they're so pure, they're so precious, and they're so good, right? And these diamonds are generally found. Where do we usually find diamonds?
South Africa.
Yes, in South Africa. And where are they found in South? Did you say South Africa, Natasha? Or was it Leanne?
Not me. It was someone.
It was me.
Oh, Leanne, yes. And so these diamonds are found in South Africa, but where?
In the dirt.
Rough.
Yes, in the dirt. You got it. So these diamonds are found, as Leanne said, in the dirt. They're found beneath the ground, under the earth. So naturally, these diamonds are covered in dirt. And so our true self, in essence, this diamond represents our true self. And the dirt represents our habitual ways, our wounds, our fears. And fears come in many different ways. Fears can be guilt, shame, regret, anger, frustration, sadness, envy, jealousy, regret. Fears could be in the form of stress, right? Stress is simply code word for fear, right? But stress sounds a little bit more, poshy, like, oh, I'm so stressed. Sometimes it makes us feel important because we're so busy and so stressed, right? But it's fear. It could be that fear that, you're not doing enough, that you're not enough if you're not doing enough. It could be that you're financially stressed, mentally stressed, emotionally stressed, right? And so the goal of this lifetime is to strip away the dirt, to clear out the dirt, to allow your inner diamond to shine, to radiate. Right? And, I'm constantly clearing out my dirt, right? I'm working on myself every day and I'm learning and I'm growing, and, I've got shit that I'm working on, right? And we all do. And you'll find that as we, clear out the dirt, we shed all the layers that are not serving us. We shed all those layers that are holding us back from being our best self. You'll find that your inner diamond, your true self, begins to shine and radiate even more. Okay, and that's the concept of unleashing your true self. Does anyone have any questions? Or, any comments you'd like to share? Great. So, I'll, share my own story. For instance, when I first started teaching yoga, actually, in my 20s, when I started teaching, yoga as a yoga teacher, I had lots of fears. I had fears around that I wasn't good enough, and I had other fears. I had fear of judgment. I feared that people would judge me because I felt that I wasn't good enough as a yoga teacher. But in essence, the only person judging me was myself. So, these fears that I had were basically the dirt that was covering my inner diamond, my true self. And because I had these fears, every time I taught a yoga class in my early years, I would like really sweat. I'd have sweat dripping down my arms, and my heart would pump really fast. And so I'm guiding the class, but in my head, it kept telling me, I'm a crap yoga teacher. I'm a crap yoga teacher. This isn't good enough. And so all these fears, all these dirt was holding me back from being my best self as a yoga teacher, because I had all these fears that I was clinging onto. And if I keep believing that I'm not a great yoga teacher, that I'm not good enough, that my class wasn't great or people didn't benefit from that class, if I kept clinging onto those fears, I would never become my best self as a yoga teacher. I would never allow my inner diamond to radiate because I kept clinging onto that dirt that was covering my diamond. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and so, that's my own personal experience. And obviously throughout the years, I've really had to work on myself to clear out the dirt. I've been clearing out heaps of dirt, just so you know. Is there anything that you would like to share about perhaps your own fears that maybe you think might be holding you back?
I can talk, Tash.
Yes, of course. Thanks for sharing, Natasha.
I think I can relate to that because I think now I'm kind of got a bit older and a lot more insightful and observe things. Like I think what I've noticed when I have transitions and things, and obviously I've done a lot of work, and I feel like you said, like you said, you're constantly working on things. And I think, but I've recently, obviously with all the changes, I've got a new job, and luckily it was, I'm able to do it online, but that brought up a lot of things for me. And it was almost like I had, I don't know if you've heard of the statement imposter syndrome, where I just felt like, even though I've got skills and things like that, like I felt like, going into a new job, they were going to like figure me out that I can't do this and things like that. So a lot of things came up.
Yes.
So I had to really work on that. And obviously it's a new job, and, and had to sit with the discomfort. But at the same time, it's also give me a lot of learning and look at, ways that I can grow through it as well, because sometimes you think, oh, I've worked on that, and then you turn around and so it kind of comes back, like it hits you in the face.
Yes.
So yeah, I noticed I'd say probably triggered quite a bit with the new job, and it just felt like, that I wasn't good enough, or those kind of things. So
Yes.
yeah, I think it is an ongoing journey where you have to be mindful.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Tash. And yes, the imposter syndrome, I think a lot of people do go through that, especially if you're stepping into a new role, or you're doing, you're really stepping out of your comfort zone. I think it's very natural to feel like an imposter. Like I know I felt that way before. Yes, and you'll find as well, a lot of these deep-rooted fears, this dirt, it's, it's held within our subconscious, and most of them are hidden. And generally what happens is when, when things happen, when circumstances change, when you're forced to be outside your comfort zone, for instance, right now with the whole coronavirus and lockdown, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so what happens is these things trigger us. They trigger the fears that are already within us. And these fears, they start to come out. And that's the best opportunity to really look at them, to confront them, and to deal with them. Because what happens on a regular basis is we distract ourselves. Now we're work, stress, do. Maybe we go out to the cinemas, we go have dinner. We do lots of things, because we have so much freedom to indulge in pleasure. And so in essence, we're distracting ourselves from being with ourselves. So all these fears that are within our subconscious, they've always been there, but we're not confronting them. We're not working with them because we're distracting ourselves by, doing other things outside of ourselves. We're being distracted in our external environment, watching TV, watching Netflix, hanging out with our kids, that sort of thing. And now because of the lockdown, in essence, a lot of people are being forced to, maybe stay at home, or they're having more quiet time, more stillness in their external environment because lots of things are closed at the moment. And so in essence, we're being forced to be with ourselves. And when we're being forced to be with ourselves, especially if we have a lot of these fears that haven't been dealt with, they're just going to come out one by one. And oftentimes they can be quite overwhelming. I know with myself, when I've had to really sit down, meditate, practice yoga, be with myself, I'll let the fears come up and then I'll deal with it. It might take me a few days, a few weeks. And then as soon as I resolve that fear, and it could be, fear that I'm not enough, that comes up a lot for everyone. Another fear could be I'm not beautiful enough. And I actually had that fear, just so you know. And so let's just say I deal with that fear and I have more confidence. Hey, I am beautiful, right? And then so I deal with that fear and then another fear pops up, right? And it keeps happening one by one because life is a journey, right? We never stop learning. We never stop growing. And the more time we're willing to be with ourselves and to work on ourselves and resolve the fears, okay, you allow yourself to clear out the dirt and your diamond to radiate even more. And so, do you know of any saints, any rishis, or what's another word for saint? Could be like a guru, a role model, anyone that you look up to? Not really? A woman that I really look up to is Marianne Williamson. So she's a candidate for US president at the moment. And she's very beautiful. She's written quite a few books. One of them is called Return to Love. So she really politicizes love. And I really look up to her. And so in her book, she talks about, the difference between like a saint. It could be like a saint, a guru, a rishi, and then you've got, just sort of like the lay person, for instance. And she says, there really is no major difference between a saint and the lay person. Right, because we're all human beings, right? We're all made of love, which is in essence our true self. The only difference is that this saint has really worked on themselves and shed all the fears, shed all the layers and the dirt. So their inner diamond, their true self is radiating. And that's why they're so magnetic. They draw people to them because their inner diamond is so pure and so good. They are radiating. Whereas the lay person, also has that diamond, that inner diamond, just like the saint. Okay, the only thing is we need to continue to work to clear out the dirt. And when we do, you know, we are no different than the saint. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, and the best way to really unleash our true self, as I said, is to shed those layers that are not serving us, right? To peel off the dirt, the self-doubt, whatever it is. Would you like me to share with you how I do that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So for instance, you know, let's just say I'm just going to make this up, or maybe let me think of something. Okay, so this happened many years ago. I was hanging out with some friends, and you know, we were having some discussions, and obviously the conversation triggered something in me. It triggered a fear. And I felt uneasy, right? And you know, and during that time in my 20s, I was constantly feeling uneasy, but I didn't know why. I just thought that was normal. And so, but at that point in time of my life, I was really going inwards and understanding why I would feel certain ways, why I would feel uneasy or uncomfortable. And so this conversation had sparked unease in me. So then I kind of walked away. You know, it was like a fitness studio. So I just kind of walked away from the conversation, and I lay down on my back and I closed my eyes. And I asked myself, you know, why am I feeling unease? You know, what happened in that conversation that made me feel uncomfortable? You know, and I was just being with myself and asking myself those questions. Why am I feeling this way? You know, what is it that triggered that in me? And you got to have self-awareness. You need to be aware of how you're feeling before you can begin to understand why you feel these ways. And I asked myself, what am I feeling right now? You know, is it jealousy? Is it envy? And then I concluded, oh, I'm feeling a little bit jealous. I'm feeling a little bit envious of that person. Okay, so that's the self-awareness. So number one is, you know, what emotions am I feeling right now? You know, try to figure it out. So that's number one. What emotions am I feeling right now? So I felt envious, and it made me a little bit sad and unease. And in essence, it made me feel like I wasn't good enough because I was comparing myself to that girl. Okay. And number two, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling these emotions? And then I thought, oh, I'm feeling these emotions because I feel that I'm not good enough. You know, I feel that, you know, she's a lot better than me in many different ways. And then number three, I can choose to change my perspective. Right? Because all of this is in our heads. It doesn't necessarily reflect our reality. It's just the thoughts, the fears that we cling on to that make us feel this way. So number three, change your perspective. You know what? She's awesome in her own way, and I'm awesome in my own way. So I'm just going to continue being me. As I said, just be you. Okay? You know, this phrase is amazing. I think everyone should you know, frame it on their wall in front of their computers. Just be you. And when you're being your authentic self, you just allow your inner self, inner diamond, your true self to shine. And that was it. And I felt better about myself, and I came back and continued the conversation. Right? And these are very three simple steps. Now, had I not delve into these three steps, you know, I would continue feeling unease, but I wouldn't know why. I wouldn't know why I was feeling uncomfortable. And I would walk through life feeling this way my whole life, not knowing why I've got low confidence, not understanding why I'm always feeling awkward or uncomfortable around people. I wouldn't know these things unless I'm willing to ask myself the questions, do the work, and delve deep. Is that interesting at all?
Yes.
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 Yeah, so, and so every time you're in a conversation, you're in an interaction, you're dealing with people at work, in the family, if you're feeling emotions, if you feel like you're not being your true self, you're not being yourself because something's holding you back, okay, that's a fear that's coming up and it's saying, hey, look at me, right? Let's work, let's work on that. So would you like me to repeat the 3 steps?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so step 1, what is this emotion? Why am I feeling this way? What is the emotion? So that's step 1 to self-awareness. Because if we don't have the awareness, we can't manage it, we can't control it. And it will end up controlling us. So when we have the awareness, we can start to manage whatever's not serving us. What is the emotion? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I not being myself? Or why am I not comfortable being myself right now? Okay, and they can be very subtle. So as you meditate more and practice more yoga, you begin to quieten the mind and you start hearing these subtleties because they're so quiet. Number 2, sorry, that was my mistake. So number 1, what is this emotion that I'm feeling? Number 2, why am I feeling this way? Okay, so why am I feeling this way? Ask yourself the questions and brainstorm. You might come up with 5 different answers. And then finally, your 10th answer is the right answer. You just know it because you feel it. Why am I feeling this way? What happened? What triggered it? What was the conversation about? What did they do to trigger this in me? And number 3, shift your perspective, right? Change your thoughts. So once you know what the emotion is, which is number 1, number 2, now that you know what triggered it, why you feel this way, these emotions, number 3, you shift the perspective, you shift the thought. So if it was, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm pathetic, I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful enough, whatever it is, you shift it. You know what? I am good enough. I am beautiful enough. I am smart enough. I may not feel it right now, but I'm going to choose these thoughts because these thoughts are going to serve me to help me be better. Okay, and they're your 3 steps. Have you got all those 3 steps down?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So we're just going to finish up in a few minutes. Do you have anything you'd like to share? Any comments you'd like to make? Or any questions? Okay, no. Oh, and and one thing I want to share as well, growing up, I had this tendency to blame, right? And, when you're living above the line, you take responsibility for your emotions, right? You take responsibility for how you feel. When you're living below the line, we tend to blame others. We victimize others. And so, and often, in my younger years, I used to blame others. So let's just say in a conversation, someone's triggering something in me. And it could be that maybe they're speaking with attitude. And because they're doing that, it triggers the fear in me that I'm not good enough. And that's really why I'm angry. I'm not angry because they're speaking to me with attitude. I'm angry because their behavior is triggering the fear in me that I'm not good enough. And so naturally I would blame that person and I would say, I'm feeling angry because she's giving me attitude. So that's me blaming her, right? I'm blaming her for my own emotions. I'm feeling angry and I'm blaming her and I'm saying she's making me feel that way, right? And so when we step up and live above the line, we start taking responsibility for our emotions. Okay, I'm feeling angry, and I understand that she's speaking to me with attitude, right? And obviously this is making me angry, but I need to take responsibility for my own emotions, right? And I need to understand, okay, so 1, what emotions am I feeling? I'm feeling angry. 2, why am I feeling this way? Well, I could blame her because she's, giving me attitude, or I can delve deep. Well, because she's giving me attitude, it makes me feel like I'm not good enough. So that's really why I'm feeling angry. And number 3, change your perspective. You know what? I am good enough. And I'm going to choose to be kind to her. I'm going to choose to be calm. And I'm going to communicate to her in a loving way. And I don't need to let her negativity, her attitudinal tone to affect my true self, because I choose to radiate right now in this moment when she's feeling stressed and chaotic. What do you think of that?
Yeah, makes sense. Good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so thank you. Any other questions you'd like to ask before we end this satsang?
No.
No,
good for me.
Great. So thank you to Tash and Leanne for joining me today. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share this information. So just so you know, we have these satsangs twice a week. So it's every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. for half an hour. So I'm facilitating every Thursday, and Caroline is facilitating every Tuesday. And I hope to see you again, so I, get to share more of these yogic teachings. And I think it's a really great way for all of us to connect as well. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Bye.